The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
From Mallory Square in Key West to the Governor's Mansion in Tallahassee and all points beyond, you're listening to the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com, your source for all things related to the craft beer community in the Sunshine State. And now your host, Dave Butler.
It's time for another episode of the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com. This is Dave, your host and author. Thank you so much for listening. We are back in Orlando today. In fact, we're in downtown Orlando, not too far from Camping World Stadium, home of the Orlando Lions, Orlando City FC. I'm not really a soccer fan. I apologize, unfortunately. But very close to the stadium. Was the home of Dead Words Brewing. It is now the home of the Ivanhoe Park Lager House, an offshoot and part of the Ivanhoe Park Brewing Company family. I've been to Ivanhoe Park Brewing. It's been many years, but sitting down with founder Glenn Closson, figured it was a good time to check out the other place as well. So they've got a very long story, very interesting engagement with the city of Orlando, and a very interesting investment opportunity, something that is becoming very big in the craft beer community. But I'm going to let Glenn talk about it. So we are here with Glenn Closson, Ivanhoe Park Lager House. A lot of great information about one of the best breweries in the city of Orlando and the state of Florida, as far as I am concerned. Enjoy. My first question, right off the bat, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah.
Is Orlando a beer town?
That is on the spot. I think it's still getting there. I know a lot of the breweries have a lot of passion. The beer quality is getting better and better every year. I know when I first opened, we went to Best Florida Beer, and we had brought home a medal, but even before we opened, I don't think any Central Florida breweries are bringing home medals. Now you go to Best Florida Beer, and a majority of Central Florida breweries are bringing home one or two. So, you know, the quality of beer is getting better. It's just capturing the regulars, getting the people of Central Florida behind craft beer. I feel like tourism's there because we have a ton of tourism and they come through. We have a ton of people in the industry that are super enthusiastic about craft beer, but it's just kind of bringing that collaboration back that we had. You know, COVID kind of made everybody so busy because we're just trying to make it month to month. So I think that's the thing is, you know, we just did Crispy Foy Fest, was our annual, first annual beer fest at Lager House. And we had 20 brews come out, and it's just seeing that camaraderie again. And, you know, Hourglass does a good job with their Smash Beer Fest. They do a fun one. They do one up at their location coming up next month to celebrate their anniversary. So it's just building back on that camaraderie. I feel like we had a little bit of a dip, but it's on the uphill right now.
Gotcha. And I was going to say the Ivanhoe Park story does not start here at the Lager House. Obviously, it starts at the original location, but when that was even getting started, what did Orlando's beer scene look like? Because there obviously wasn't as much then as there is now. And it was sort of, at least here in the city, beautiful, you know, John Cheek and Orlando Brewing was sort of the biggest player. So what really was there, and why did you decide to throw your hat into the ring?
Yeah, so coming from California, I owned and operated a brewery there. And I think it's just the Brewers Association with their data showing like the Southeast region in general, like breweries per capita was very low. When I first moved here in 2016, just to research and look, I think there was like 15 or 16 breweries, which coming from California, I mean, I had that many in my county, you know, a portion of the county. So
I was going to say, you're from Southern, right?
Yep. Orange County area.
So
yeah. So I think when I opened, it was like the 17th of Orange County, California. But then when I sold to Beechwood, it was like 60 something in Orange County alone. And then hundreds in LA County, hundreds in, you know, San Diego County. So
I was going to say for Southern California, San Diego sort of rules the roost, but
definitely.
So I guess what drove you to move from one Disney county to another Disney county to open up a brewery, other than and why downtown? and not closer to, I guess, the more hubbub traveled area?
Yeah, I would say it's just kind of luck and destiny at that point. Ultimately, friends and family were leaving California. My family moved to Nashville, friends moving to Texas. So Orlando just kind of stuck out because you could see the tourism numbers were there. And the fact that there was only 15 or 16 breweries, it was like plenty of markets still at that time. So it just kind of gave me the idea. The reason for Ivanhoe Village in downtown, I mean, just that building went on the market. It was a perfect spot. Back at that time, landlords were a little skeptical with breweries. They didn't like breweries coming in and, punching out the ground and putting in new sewage lines and things. So I feel like the landlord is pretty easy to work with back then. And we just kind of got lucky. Ivanhoe Village was, up and coming at that time. There's a lot of changes happening and they're still happening, but it just became a really cool hub once we had opened up. Now there's new spots, Gnarly Barley going in there. Russell's on the lake, Pinery. So it's a fun spot where people Uber and bounce around. So I think it's most luck and destiny. I mean, I would love to say that I did this great, statistical analysis and found it, but I think just getting involved in that community and the fact that we have commitment to community, I think that just really felt right and kind of worked out in our favor.
But all the places that you sort of mentioned, those are not producing alcohol.
Correct.
So how difficult was it to fit a slightly different concept into a community that already sort of existed, that already sort of had its own thing going?
So Ivanhoe Village has changed a lot since we've opened. The businesses I just named are all newer than us. So there has just been with the yard going in that took out a lot of the warehouses on the north side of Ivanhoe Village. And there's been turnover, obviously, with COVID and things like that. I know when I moved here, it was kind of the unofficial barley row, even when we opened, because you do have 1010 there. You have Red Light just down the road. You have Nora's Sugar Shack was a great spot. Thirsty Topher is a great spot. So there's a lot of beer-centric spots, and GB's Bottle Shop was there. So just having that to kind of follow along just made it easier because we just kind of added to that unofficial barley row kind of thing.
Gotcha. And what I've always found interesting is, I guess, obviously the name that you have settled on, Ivanhoe Park, is obvious considering where you were, but that was not the original name of the brewery, which I would love for you to go into.
So kind of, but we were wanting to go the route of Joyland. So Ivanhoe Park is kind of a play on Russell's Point that was opened in 1910 on Lake Ivanhoe, which you can see from our patio out there. And in 1915, they renamed it Joyland just because the community had like a little contest, and that was the one that ended up winning. So from 1915 to 1919, it was known as Joyland. We did want to go with Joyland, but it was kind of we just all thought that would be too playful of a term that we were worried they didn't realize it was a brewery. So we went with Ivanhoe Park, which kind of worked out. And then we just named our American IPA Joyland. So that's one of our core beers that we've had from the beginning.
Gotcha. So Orlando's, I'd hate to say an amusement park, but at least I guess it's the proto of what that was in the area.
Yep.
Which is nice.
Yep.
So obviously the landlords are, one issue. Does Ivanhoe Park have its own development organization that you had to work with, or was it just city and county that you had to go through?
So luckily that district it's just a main street. So they just are there to support the businesses. There's no historic board or any other kind of functioning oversight of governance there. So, it's just a city. Even the county doesn't really have much of a say. So, working directly with the city of Orlando was, pretty easy compared to other brewery nightmares that I've heard of. It's just kind of crazy to look at the timeline. I met my first investors May of 2017 and we opened June of 2018. So that was, from meeting the investors, getting the capital together, finding a location, buying the equipment, building it out. Like we did it in just over a year, which is kind of crazy.
That's insane when listening to other stories that I've heard of breweries, which is amazing. And so obviously you got them. And then what was the community like? How difficult was it to bring people in to a brewery once you did open those doors?
The community's been awesome from the beginning. I think, I kind of was involved Ivanhoe Village on their board for a while. I went from their secretary to their treasurer to their VP to eventually being the president of Ivanhoe Village. Once COVID hit, I kind of took a step back just because we had to concentrate a little more on our business. But I think just having that involvement really helped out in meeting the other business owners. They knew we were coming. We promoted as best we could. We did a ton of, collaboration posts saying, hey, we're checking out this business. I think that just kind of fed back into people wanting to come and support us. So ever since opening, it's always been great. Even in COVID, we were only able to sell beer to go, but I feel like a lot of the community, even though their beer fridge was completely full, they still wanted to keep us open, keep us alive. So people would come by 4-packs, 6-packs just to keep it going, keep the lights on. We kept as many staff as we could on board, and just kind of pushed through as best we could on that.
And obviously, at the time that you opened, distro was sort of a foregone conclusion for breweries that were opening. Is that something that you knew right off the bat was going to be something that needed to happen? Or did that sort of come out of COVID having to push through? Or my other question is, did you need that in going to all the resort areas that were down I-4?
Yeah, a little bit of all of it. We kept our brand ambassador on, Nick. He's still with us today. He's celebrating over 5 years with us. We've had a lot of great staff over the years that have been with us for a very long time, but we tried to support accounts and distribution that supported us. I mean, obviously draft sales were nothing, but we could still get our package into Publix, ABC, Total Wine, and that kind of helped us, keep the brew team on and keep them employed as long as they could. But I do think, like you mentioned, a lot of those accounts were looking for beer, and regional breweries scaled back. I mean, they furloughed their staff and just stopped brewing beer and just kind of buckled up. But we were like, well, this is an opportunity. Let's keep pushing forward. And I think that actually opened up a lot of doors for us because, we help these resorts have beer and keep it on tap and product to go. And I think some accounts, appreciated that we were still out there, still trying, and kept going. So
awesome. And was it always a foregone conclusion that you wanted to get into the resorts, either to just sell there or to take those people and try to bring them downtown to visit you?
A little bit of both. I think ultimately we want as many people in the tap room just because the margins are a lot higher, and it's kind of our bread and butter is having the tap room, creating that experience, having 15 of our beers on tap. We also have some great staff that make it a friendly, fun environment. But we love seeing our beer out in accounts, just going to a resort and seeing it and seeing, most people when they travel to go to the bar and be like, what's your local beer? And it's fun when a bartender's educated and knows we're right down the road. So it's a little bit of both. The marketing factor from that bartender being like, oh, that IPA is actually brewed, 5 miles away, 10 miles away. So it's a little give and take of both, where we're hopeful that, having the beer there does drive a little traffic from iDrive, the resort park areas, over to one of our tap rooms.
Gotcha. Who are the kind of people that usually are seeking out your beers, especially in the tourist areas? Are they generally the ones that are going to be going to find breweries and visit them when they are on vacation, or at least when they're home? Or do you manage to get people that aren't necessarily into beer or craft beer that just happenstance to find one of your beers out in the wild?
Definitely a little bit of both again. It's just, we do see a lot of the tourists that are looking specific for breweries. I mean, just 20 minutes ago, there was a couple that's trying to hit 10 breweries today. So they're all in.
That's a lot.
And they are lofty goals, but that's why they got here right at open, and we're gone within 30 minutes because they have a lot to do. But then also the Lager House is right next to Camping World Stadium, Interco Stadium. So it's, a 10-minute walk to either of those. So we kind of decked it out to be kind of like a brewery, but more of a sports bar vibe with the pool tables, the pinball machines, the dartboards. Just because we have that crowd as well. They're looking at Google Maps. They see us on Google Maps. They're like, oh, I could park there, walk to the stadium, have a bite to eat and a beer before I go in.
And that's actually a good point, because so we are sitting here at the Lager House, formerly home of Deadwords Brewing. Did you want to expand and then the location became available, or did the location become available and that's what kind of prompted the ideas to expand?
Definitely, the location became available and that's what prompted the expansion. When we took over the space, we were definitely looking more at the brewing side and the storage, because we've been with Brew Hub in Lakeland for about 3-4 years now. So we've always wanted to bring that in-house. That was the end goal. We wanted to test the market. Could we sell 100 barrels of each brand of beer, without having to invest, millions of dollars into a brand new brewing system? And Brew Hub was charging storage fees that were adding up. So we were looking at it more so from the backside here.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't as interested in the tap room. But in the year that we've been open, we've noticed the tap room has tons of potential and has done actually really well for us. So we're glad we did that.
Because obviously the neighborhoods are very distinctly different. I was wondering if the clientele, does the Lager House leech people from the original Ivanhoe Village Brewery, or are you getting a new crowd here that is distinctly separate from who went to the old location?
Yeah, that was a big discussion with our board is, we don't want something that takes away from the other one, but we've heard from close customers and regulars, like they won't leave. They love Brewing Co. too much. People that have found Lager House love Lager House too much. I think it's just such a different vibe at each location. The staff are both friendly and welcoming at each one, but I feel like, each one has a different vibe. I feel like this one's a little more upscale feeling, but with the sports bar vibe, where the other one is like a casual, you're sitting on picnic benches and hanging out. And, I think we've heard from the market that it's that way just because the board was worried like we would be taken from that one. So I think it is two distinct markets that work out.
Gotcha. And obviously, brew system is behind gorgeous picture windows. That's now your distribution or your production facility, correct?
So the volume at the other location, we actually had more there, just because the tanks are bigger. We have 4 15s and then 3 25s over there. This one had 6 15s when we took it over, but we have added a 30 barrel fermenter and a 30 barrel bright. And we'll probably be adding 4 more 30 barrels in the next couple months. So we do a lot of production here. Both sites have canning lines. So it's more so what's in the pipeline, which one has which yeast that we're going to reuse. Our director of brewing ops, Eric, does a great job of managing all that and just kind of being mindful of what he wants to brew next and, what the distributor needs. So I think he does a good job managing where both sides are kind of utilized at the same rate.
Gotcha. And how do you shuffle things between the two? Like, we'll take a Park Hopper,
Mm-hmm.
the Golden Pilsner, which is my absolute favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing some of the liquor laws that are in the state, do you have, Park Hopper on draft here is brewed here, or if you're going over to Ivanhoe Village, the Park Hopper on draft is brewed there, or are there certain beers that are here that you're distributing over there and certain brews that are brewed there that are coming over here?
So we're allowed to self-distribute between breweries just because you can distribute CMB to CMB. So we have brewing license at both sides as long as it's owned under the same parent company. So our parent company does have 2 Florida subsidiaries. Brewing Co. is one, Lager House is the other. So again, it's just more so what yeast is in the pipeline, what we need to get in the tanks. I do notice he does more of the varietals over there and some of the cores here. But we also have the 2-barrel system here where we do strictly lagers that are only available here. So our Schwartz beer you won't see over there, Kettle Swims, and a few of the other lagers that we've been kind of working with will be just here at Lager House and not so much over there.
And I was going to say, it's like, was that part of the enjoyment of having a second space is to do lagers, which are, a little bit longer to ferment and to manufacture, shall we say? It's not the right word, but.
Yeah, and that's what we've done. We have 2 of the Lucre faucets here so that we're properly pouring those beers. We're going to add 2 more soon to kind of give them different styles that are on the Lucre faucets so you could get the different type of traditional pours. So we offer the Kolsch wheels here. So it's just trying to bring some of those traditions, those German, Czech, Belgian style traditions, and having that more so here. We enjoy the education piece at Brewing Co., and that's kind of what we've done there, but we feel like bringing more Lager House style traditions here will kind of keep that differentiation where you could go to both and have a totally different experience, but it'll be the kind of the same vibe and culture.
Gotcha. And you sort of mentioned it, but We are a couple blocks from Camping World. In fact, we're in the middle of a FIFA event competition, whatever it is. Obviously, Orlando City's big because that's where they play. Do you try to build towards those event days and basically pack the place? Is that kind of the bread and butter for this location? Or is it enough to where things are just sort of even keel throughout the year, events notwithstanding?
The events are huge for us. The one that was Thursday night, the FIFA at Camping World, was Man City, and there was just a sea of blue in here. So it was a massive amount of fan base. They play again Monday, so we don't usually open Monday, but now we will be, just because we know we're pretty much one of the few food and beverage places in the area. So even people out of town, they'll find us on Google, Apple Maps, whatever they do. And it just kind of helps drive that traffic. Tonight's an Orlando City home game, so we're getting prepped for that. Should have a good turnout because we don't charge for parking. We just say, you can park here if you patronize.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are good on our system. They'll pop their head in. Some people are like, oh, I don't have time to eat. We'll figure something out. So we don't want to, charge $20 for a parking space. We'd rather have someone come, have a good experience and, enjoy themselves and then go to the event or game that they're going to.
Awesome. And that actually does bring to mind the kitchen. Did the Ivanhoe Park the Ivanhoe Village location open with the kitchen? Does it have a kitchen? I think it was just food trucks.
Yeah, we do food trucks only over there.
Gotcha. Did this location come with a kitchen already built in?
Yeah. So David from Deadwood's had the kitchen, pizza oven, all that already installed.
Gotcha. And what part of the business necessity was it to keep the kitchen? Because I've spoken to a lot of new breweries and they necessarily didn't want a kitchen, but they've realized that the craft beer experience nowadays, if you don't have that, it might not be as successful.
Yeah, I think definitely since COVID and, some of the more recent years, kitchens have been essential for breweries to kind of hedge their bets. So the kitchen's been awesome. When we first took it over, I did not want to run a kitchen. I have no experience in it, no background in it. So it was intimidating. We were looking at subleasing the kitchen out and just having someone else operate it. That's what at the other place, we have a food truck that's there and they just operate their food and it keeps people longer. It drives traffic. But this one, I feel like was key, having a kitchen, just because it is in an area where it's a destination. Ivanhoe Village, you can pop around. There's 5 or 6 places to eat. So it's like, have a few beers, go to lunch, go to dinner somewhere else, and that's fine. But with Lager House, you're not walking OBT to find, dinner here. So it's like, you're coming here, you're here for a few beers, you're here for food. So it's like, been really helpful in us being able to do that. We also host a ton of private events here. We've had baby showers, wedding receptions. So it just allows us that option to be able to cater those events as well.
That's it's kind of interesting. And I will say the one aspect of Deadwood's that was sort of very famous about them that you have kept is the sign. Why have we not only have we not gotten rid of it, but it looks like we are updating the sign with your own sort of imagery. Hey, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Ultimately, when we moved in, a lot of people were like, oh, you didn't do anything. And it's like, the space was just too beautiful to not. Like, we didn't see any point in really changing much. We've added TVs, we've added the pool tables, we've added more like entertainment factors. Because David was very much so, wanting people to, hang out, talk about the beer. And that was the vibe he was going for. So it's more so, we didn't want to tear anything out or change anything. The sign's been great for putting communications up there. We've looked at, maybe getting rid of it and selling it, but I think for now we'll probably keep it up there just because it fits the vibe pretty well.
Awesome. But you are going to be making some changes because you just got a grant from the community. Can you talk a little bit about what that grant was and what changes will be coming to the Lager House as a result?
Yeah, so we're on Orange Blossom Trail, and there's the Orange Blossom Trail Development Board, and they have a grant called the OBT Next, and they just on Wednesday, the board approved a $100,000 grant for us. So that's going to get us the ability to add the 4 tanks that I was talking about. It also allows us to get into distilling and cidery. So we're going to be filing for those licenses, getting the equipment needed to start doing that. And then it's also a portion of funds. We have a space in the back that's called the Void, and it's pretty much where everything goes to get lost, but it's not HVAC, so we're hoping some of those funds can help us HVAC that space. And then from there, we're looking at either doing like a speakeasy or something kind of fun and different in that space.
Gotcha. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I've noticed a lot of breweries, the next step, and in some instances, the saving lifeline for them has been distilling. What made you decide to throw your hat into that ring?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of trends. RTDs have been doing really well. Seltzers kind of went their way. We do offer seltzer in-house, but we're not going to get into distributing it. But it's nice having that option for, being able to develop and create and see what our market wants in-house rather than us just having like White Claw or whatever, seltzer is trending at that time. But yeah, distilling has been a popular thing. Beechwood Brewing was who bought my last brewery in California. They're now in distilling. So just kind of watching what they've been doing. They have a cool, fun tiki bar vibe in Long Beach that they just opened up in Bigsby Knolls, which is really cool. So it kind of opens up a lot of doors. I mean, I think Brewing Co., our original location, we would have people that always just want that vodka soda or something, not beer, not wine, but, we offer so many different beverages. So it opens up that last, being able to offer a spirits type beverage and making cocktails and having fun with it.
Knowing from other breweries that have distilleries, that's a whole separate set of requirements of, even if you produce it technically in-house, you still have additional hurdles to even sell that in-house. Are you going to be going through all of that all at once, or are we going to produce first, get it into the marketplace, and then hopefully eventually have some sort of a mixed drink program here on the premises?
Yeah, we're going through all that right now just to kind of see what's changed recently, what's, current law. I know we've met the Craft Distillers Guild of Florida, and they've done a great job with lobbying and getting some of the laws that you're mentioning adjusted, just because it was ridiculous where, St. Augustine Distillery couldn't even sell to the restaurant that's right above them. So we'll definitely be going through those hurdles. We do want to have a whole program here. So whatever we have to do to make that happen. I know there's some breweries that just started distilling and are able to sell it in-house. So I don't know the specifics on how that all works, but we'll be working with them to figure out what those loopholes are to make that happen.
And I was going to say, you have the additional hurdle of the Ivanhoe Village location. Does the self-distribution for the beer allow you to take a gin or vodka or whatever you're starting with, which we'll ask later, and bring it over to Ivanhoe Village, or is that a whole different set of regulations?
Probably a whole different set. I'm not 100% sure. We might be able to do like an RTD because our 2-cop allows us to purchase an RTD from a distributor. Okay. But then again, we wouldn't be able to do the CMB to CMB transfer. It'd be, our CMB selling to our 2-cop over there, which would require that 3-tiered system.
Gotcha. What are you going to start with? Are you going to start with gin and vodka or anything else?
Yeah, definitely gin, vodka. Those are the more kind of entries. Our head brewer, our brewer of operations is also talking about a gin that he's working on right now. So we're getting very beginning stages, but we're excited. Probably in the next 4 to 6 months, we'll have a little bit more information on that one.
Oh, gotcha. And the cider as well. You had mentioned ciders.
Yeah, they've been wanting to get into ciders, but it's the whole, you have to surrender one license, add the other license. So we're hoping to finally, utilize that grant to get us into that factor. We go through a ton of cider here. We're currently using 1911 as our cider, and they have some great flavors and, but we do want to eventually have that gluten-free option available because I think that's why a lot of people lean towards ciders when they come here.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. And you also mentioned, some of the events, like you actually did have an event in the middle of summer, a beer event, but you held it inside because obviously you have the space. Mm-hmm. And talk a little bit about some of the events that you're holding, or now that you have the Lager House that you are able to hold. Because I think this event that was, I guess, technically last week, that's the first time that you've ever held that event. It's not like Return to Joyland, which is your signature event that happens every October.
Yep. It's been awesome because we get so many event requests at the other location that we just don't have the space. I mean, we went from 4,800 square feet to 14,000 square feet. So there's a lot more taproom space here to utilize. So when we get event requests, we're always like, hey, check out our new location. And it just works out every time because they're like, oh, cool. Catering's already included. We have plenty of space. We don't have to make it fully private because, I mean, half the taproom can hold 100 people. And my other location, 100 people probably can't even fit in the tap room and the patio. Like, you have to fully close it down over there. So it's kind of nice where we can keep rental fees a little lower because they're only like blocking off a portion of it, and then we could stay open to the others. But yeah, Crispy Boy Fest is our 1-year anniversary here celebration. So we'll kind of keep that as tradition like RTJ. It's nice that it's middle of July, middle of June, that it's still indoors, so it's air conditioned, and we capped it at 50 VIP and 100 GA, and it sold out, and it was a great time. But as mentioned, we've done baby showers. We host a ton of happy hours. 10X Tech is a big event for technology that comes out here. The ale line just pulled up, so we have the Orlando ale line that drops off here, picks up here, and then it also goes to our other location. So it's kind of fun to see people at both spots, you know, and again, they see that different vibe. Just some don't know it's the same brewery owner.
That's kind of awesome. And you also, one of the things that you have posted about a lot on social media is if people are interested in Ivanhoe Park, obviously coming here and drinking a beer or having a beer and a pizza or something is one thing, but investing is something completely different. And I've noticed that there are some other breweries that are actually allowing that and opening that up and kind of doing that. What was the impetus behind that particular aspect of the business venture? Because we're not talking about like GoFundMe or something. We're talking about actual investment in Ivanhoe Park as a corporate entity.
Yeah, so Start Engine is a crowdfunding campaign. I had been looking at this like 3 years ago. I brought it to the board. I was like, this would be a great PR thing because community owned. I mean, that means everybody that believes in us, wants to be a part of this, comes out to our family day, you know, supports us, whatever. They could actually be equity owners in this company. So I had pitched it to the board probably 3 years ago. And at the time, you know, we really didn't need the funds. We weren't really looking to grow. We were kind of happy with what we were. And our current investors, if we ever needed capital, like I know when we opened the other spot, we needed to buy new tanks immediately. So we raised capital for that. We were doing keg logistics, renting kegs. And we just saw that line item was always so expensive. So we ended up just raising capital to buy our own keg cooperage. So it was never really an issue with raising capital. Our original investors always were on board. When we took over this location, we brought on 5 other investors that were interested in coming in because it just happened so quick. We had like 1 month to make a decision and it was going through bankruptcy court. So it was like no time to do anything. So we were able to raise the funds to acquire this location. And then that's when we decided, you know what? Now we need to fill it with tanks. Like, it's great. It looks beautiful, but there's just so much unused space that we're like, how do we grow quickly? Because we still use Brew Hub. We still need them for the volume. So once we bring in 100% brewing capacity, those margins are going to be great. No storage fees is going to be great. So crowdfunding was back on the table. It takes a little time because you have to convert from an LLC to a C Corp. It's attorney fees doing that. You have to go through a whole SEC, FINRA type review. A CPA, actually, an outside CPA has to come in, go through your books, do a full audit. So it's very time consuming. It's very money invested just to get it going. It was kind of expensive to do it. And, you know, we understood what we were getting into. And, you know, it just was the fact that we knew we could be community owned, but then we could also raise funds to grow the bank quicker than it's already growing.
And obviously the numbers are one thing, but how has the reception been from either your base or the craft beer community in general? Are you getting a lot of people that are your regulars that are interested in it? Or are you seeing a lot of people that are coming from outside that have been interested, you know, kind of like many other brewery owners, like, hey, I'd like to, but I'm not going to do the full thing. Let's look at this instead.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about crowdfunding. I mean, anyone can invest. Every time we did a capital raise, you had to go through a certain amount of paperwork that proves someone's an accredited investor. So they have to have a certain net worth. They have a certain amount of money in the bank, a certain number of assets. With crowdfunding, you can do $500 as the minimum, and there's no accredited investor requirement. So it's, you know, a lot easier market entry for, you know, raising those funds. It has been interesting to see who's gotten involved. I mean, we've had CEOs of major airlines come out of the woodworks and put money in, and bar owners downtown, like people that have had our beer on tap and support us forever and know the brand and want to keep it going. Like, I think it's been interesting to see who comes out of the woodwork, because it's been some of our annual pass holders, which is like our mug club. They've invested in it. So it's been cool to see that. You know, we're going over 200,000 raised so far. And we're extended through the end of August, when it closes. So we're hoping to break at least 500,000, but we're allowed to raise up to 1.2 million. So
that's amazing. I hate to say this question, but once you get to that point, are we looking at location number 3 possibly, or are we looking to just expand, or, either the original location or here in the Lager House? What does the future possibly hold for Ivanhoe Park?
Yeah, so once the tanks are filled and we've maxed out this space, it would be more retail locations. So we wouldn't need any more brewing capacity. We'd be good at that. So it'd be more so pizza and beer spots. With this location, the pizza's been great. It's been such a success that we want to do more retail of, pizza and beer. Again, we can't self-distribute to those, but we'd be able to work with our distributor on getting maybe a better, percentage that they charge us for each keg. But it wouldn't be as capital intensive for those locations, because it'd be the pizza oven, the kitchen would be the biggest portion of it. But you'd only need, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, not 14,000 square feet. So.
Gotcha. And, obviously being Orlando, has it been good to be kind of tourism adjacent? Obviously the Lager House with a lot of, the Man City fans coming in. Obviously, I would assume that most of them are not from Central Florida, probably not from the U.S. at all. Has it been good to market that industry to the Orlando craft beer community, or do you really try to focus on the locals, try to focus on the people that are here year round, living and working? Or is it sort of evenly split between the two?
It's pretty evenly split. We love our regulars. We love our locals. They're the ones that keep the lights on. So what we do depend on is the visitors to come in and create that profit for us, so that we can grow and expand. We work a lot with Visit Orlando. They've been great. When they have a media request, they'll go to Ivanhoe Village. They'll hit our brewery. They'll do stand-up paddleboard. They'll go to the food hall that's there, and we get a nice write-up. I mean, we've seen our write-ups in Ireland, UK, Brazil. So they are way better at knowing who the tourists are here. They do some great data that helps us know what we should be targeting or expecting. But I think all businesses downtown want to know how to break into that iDrive. That's a huge market. And I think, Visit Orlando does a good job. The main streets do a great job with it. The OBT Next grant, that was my whole pitch, is, we want to use a portion of that funds to help with more beer education. So offering tours, but going deeper than tours with beer classes, and just having a full-time person that creates a fun environment and can go to the resorts and be like, hey, we offer beer tours. We'll send the bus, pick you up. And there's a few companies that we work with that already do that, but it's like cracking into that a little more, I think, will not only keep our regulars, keep the local community supporting us, but that's a huge market that, getting those people out here will be super helpful.
Gotcha. I will leave you with this. Did you ever expect selling your brewery in California and moving out to Central Florida that you would be where you are with the business that you have today?
To be honest, I thought it'd be a lot easier the second time around, but given COVID and all the other loopholes that have been happening the past, 7 years since we've opened the first location, I just feel like, the community's been awesome. I know when I first opened and, we found the history of Ivanhoe Village, and not many businesses were capturing that history, and we thought that was so cool. I thought a lot of people would be like, who's this California kid telling us about the history of Orlando? But I feel like just, me and my wife being in the community as much as we can, we give back to as many nonprofits as we can. I think that just kind of helps, build that rapport, and, we see the return of support on the other side of it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming out.
In addition to micro-brewing, our interests have also been sparked by micropigmentation of the scalp. What exactly is scalp micropigmentation, you ask? That's a great question. Scalp micropigmentation, also known as SMP, is a non-surgical hair loss solution that uses specialized pigment and equipment to replicate the appearance of tiny hair follicles on the scalp. SMP creates the illusion of a fuller head of hair or a clean buzz cut look, creating a more youthful appearance and restoring your confidence. At New Beginning Micro, Steve Rivera and his SMP artists specialize in custom treatments tailored to your specific hair goals and needs. SMP makes the perfect personal investment or gift for men experiencing balding or receding hairlines, women with thinning or visible scalp, anyone with alopecia, clients with scars from surgeries or hair transplants, or anyone looking for a non-invasive, long-term hair loss solution. Results usually last between 4 to 6 years. And at New Beginning Micro, Steve and his team offer refresh sessions to keep you looking sharp and fresh for years. If you're interested, visit New Beginning Micro at newbeginningsmp.com today. And be sure to use promo code FLBeer1000, that's FLBeer1000, for a huge discount and to let them know that the Florida Beer Podcast sent you. And that is it for the Ivanhoe Park Brewing Company, Ivanhoe Park Lager House, and beyond family of beer-making people. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break as we get ready for some new episodes of the Florida Beer Podcast. But if you want to know when we are coming back, the best place to go is on our social media. We are on Facebook as FL Beer Blog. Pretty much everywhere else we are Florida Beer Blog, and that includes TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Threads and, well, pretty much everywhere you can think of, we are there. Not on Blue Sky, though. They kicked me off. I have to check on that because I miss Blue Sky. You can reach out to us at floridabeerblog@gmail.com, and you can also follow us on the internet at floridabeerblog.com and floridabeerpodcast.com. If you are going to be creating a podcast of your own, we are happily produced by the good people at Flintstone Media. They will give you everything that you need to get your podcast off the ground, and you can find them at flintstonemedia.com. If you are listening to us on the podcasting app of your choice, thank you so much. We are on pretty much everything: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeart, Spotify, everywhere you can. And if you can, follow us, give us a nice 5-star review, and leave a nice comment. It helps more people find us and find out more about Florida's craft beer scene. Our intro announcer is Jeff Brozovich, field producer of Steve Picala. Executive producer for Flintstone Media in Grand High Poobah is Jemmy Legagneur. This is David, your host and author. We will see you soon. Thank you so much for listening, and drink Florida Craft.